On a night of violent snow, Aiden Cross found an overturned car burning on the mountainside, its flames fighting the blizzard. Valor rushed ahead, barking into the wind as if he sensed a soul slipping away. Inside the wreck, an elderly woman in a red coat lay trapped, whispering one name through the smoke. Michael. Aiden broke the window with his bare hands, pulling her out just as the fire swallowed the front seat. Valor pressed his paw on her arm, an instinct he only used when a life still had a purpose left to fulfill. And in that moment, the woman opened her eyes and gasped. God sent you, because the truth isn't gone yet. What truth do you think she was trying to reveal? Tell me your thoughts below, and remember to like and subscribe to follow the story. Snow drifted softly across the clearing, wrapping Second Chance House in a blanket of quiet winter breath. Inside the cabin, Aiden Cross moved with the steady calm of a man who had lived through too many storms, outside and inside. His FBI jacket, navy blue and dusted with melting snow, hung loosely on the back of a chair. The fireplace glowed, the air smelled faintly of cinnamon, and beside him, curled like a sleeping guardian, lay Valor, a powerful 6-year-old German shepherd with a sable coat and amber eyes that seemed to understand more than any human ever could. But then, without warning, Valor stood up. No hesitation, no confusion, just instinct. Pure, sharp, undeniable. A deep growl rumbled in his chest, the kind of growl Aiden had only heard when danger, or destiny, was standing on the other side of a door. Before Aiden spoke, Valor lunged toward the entrance, body tense, ears rigid, tail stiff as iron. And then, one single knock, a knock too sharp, too intentional to belong to a lost traveler in the snow. Aiden opened the door. A blast of freezing wind swept in, stealing his breath. And there, standing in the swirling snow, was a young man, thin, shivering, exhausted, barely holding himself upright. His brown hair stuck wet to his forehead. His jacket was far too light for the storm. His eyes, soft brown, wide with confusion, looked like someone who had been running from something he did not understand. His voice broke as he spoke. I'm sorry. I didn't know where else to go. Aiden scanned him, the way a trained agent does. No alcohol, no drugs, just fear, and a sadness so old it felt carved into his bones. What's your name? Aiden asked. The young man swallowed. I don't know. Aiden froze. But Valor moved first. The dog approached slowly, purposefully, and did something Aiden had only seen him do once before. Valor lifted a single paw and placed it gently into the young man's trembling hand. A gesture of recognition, connection, memory. The young man gasped softly. He knows me. Aiden's heartbeat stumbled. He looked closer. That was when he saw it. Around the young man's wrist, a silver bracelet, old, scratched, weathered, engraved with 2 letters, MM. Aiden's breath caught. The young man's voice trembled again. For months, I've been dreaming about a woman. He shivered. Not from the cold, from the truth trying to break its way out. A woman with silver hair, a red coat, standing in the snow. Aiden felt his stomach drop. She keeps calling a name. The young man whispered. Michael. Aiden staggered back half a step, memories flooding like a reopened wound. Evelyn Moore, her shattered voice, her trembling hands, her desperate whisper in the storm. Michael. My boy. My son. The young man wasn't finished. Last night, she told me to find someone named Aiden Cross. Valor pressed closer to the stranger, amber eyes fixed on the bracelet as if reading the past through metal and memory. Aiden's voice lowered. What else did she say? The young man's lips parted, fear and hope fighting in his eyes. She said, "The person who caused the accident that night." A pause, a breath, a tremor. Is still alive. Valor growled, a deep, ancient sound, a sound of recognition, not threat. Aiden stepped forward, reaching for the bracelet, touching the cold silver. "No," he whispered. "No, it can't be." Valor lifted his head, growled again, low, certain, unshaken, as if saying the words Aiden could not. Yes, it can. Just as Aiden guided the young man inside, Valor froze, body stiff as carved stone. His gaze shot toward the dark forest, not fear, recognition. The young man turned pale. That sound, I've heard that growl before. His voice cracked. In my dreams. He stands beside the woman in the red coat. Aiden's skin crawled. Valor never looked away from the trees, as if someone, or something, was standing out there in the falling snow, watching. Aiden closed the door gently, but his heart thudded like fists against ice. The young man, barely holding himself together, lifted his wrist again. Am I Michael? Aiden didn't know the answer. Not yet. But he knew this. Nothing about tonight was coincidence. He touched the bracelet. Cold metal, warm destiny. No, he whispered. No, it can't be. Valor growled, soft, deep, certain, a confirmation born of instinct, older than memory. And in that moment, Aiden knew one thing. The past wasn't finished with them, not even close. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe. May God bless you, guide you, and remind you that even on the coldest nights, His miracles still find their way home. The storm came down the mountain that night, like a living creature, wild, violent, and hungry for anything caught in its path. Snow whipped across the forest road. The wind screamed against the SUV's windows, and Aiden Cross gripped the steering wheel with the steady calm of a man who had survived storms before, but knew this one was different. Beside him, Valor sat rigid, not relaxed, not resting, alert, every muscle tense. His sable fur bristled, and the silver patch on his chest rose and fell with uneasy breaths. Aiden glanced at him. What is it, boy? Valor didn't answer with a bark. He answered with instinct. His head snapped toward the windshield, his ears angled forward. And then, that sound. A long, mournful, chilling howl. A sound Aiden had heard only in moments when life and death stood side by side. Before he could react, lightning tore across the sky, a single, violent flash. In that flash, Aiden saw it. A silver sedan ahead of them, spinning out of control, sliding across the ice like a wounded animal. Then, impact. Metal crushed against a pine tree. Flames flickered instantly beneath the hood. Hang on! Aiden slammed the brakes. The SUV skidded, fishtailed, then fought its way to a stop. Valor was already pushing at the door, ready before Aiden even reached for the handle. Go! The two leapt into the storm. Wind, snow, the smell of burning fuel, sharp and terrifying. The sedan's front end was already engulfed. Through the shattered window, Aiden saw a woman inside. Silver hair tangled across her face, a red wool coat torn at the shoulder, a green scarf caught in the twisted metal of her seatbelt. Her skin pale, elegant, lined with time, but now twisted in terror. She screamed one word, over and over, a word full of grief. Michael! Michael! Aiden grabbed the door handle. It refused to move. Valor circled the flames, barking sharp commands, guiding, protecting, as if directing Aiden through the danger. Ma'am, I'm here. Stay with me. But she didn't hear him. She was trapped between the storm outside and the storm inside her memories. "Not again," she whispered. "Not again." Thunder cracked overhead. Aiden braced himself, pulled with every ounce of strength. The metal shrieked, groaned, and finally tore just enough for him to wedge his body inside. Flames spat upward. Heat scorched his skin. "I've got you," he shouted. "I won't let go." He unbuckled her, pulled her out, and in that exact second, an explosion burst behind them. Evelyn Moore cried out and buried her face in his chest as he carried her through the snow. Valor guided them back to the SUV, moving with the precision of a soldier in the heart of something wiser. Inside the vehicle, Evelyn shook violently. Her breath came in broken gasps. Aiden wrapped her in a blanket. "My name is Aiden," he said gently. "This is Valor. You're safe." Her voice cracked. Evelyn Moore." Valor climbed up beside her, but instead of lying down, he lifted one paw, slowly, deliberately, and placed it on her trembling hand. Evelyn froze. Her eyes widened, filled with something ancient, recognition, memory, love. "Michael," she whispered. "You have his eyes." Aiden felt something twist inside him. He didn't understand it, not yet, but he felt the truth of it, somewhere deep. He started the engine and drove into the storm. The road vanished under snow, but he kept going, guided by instinct and the strange certainty that tonight mattered. As the SUV rocked in the wind, Evelyn suddenly gasped. A sound sharp enough to cut through the storm. Her fingers tightened on Valor's fur. Her eyes stared at nothing, or at something only she could see. "I remember," she whispered. Aiden slowed the car. Valor froze, ears rigid, body still as stone. "That night," Evelyn said. "The night I lost him. Someone pulled me from the car." The storm outside seemed to fall silent. But it wasn't my husband. Aiden's breath caught. Valor's hackles rose. "It was a boy," she said. "A boy with eyes like his." Aiden felt the world tilt. And his face. She trembled violently. It was blurred, like someone didn't want me to remember it. Valor growled, a low, ancient sound. The sound of a creature remembering something humans had forgotten. The storm eased slightly as they reached Aiden's cabin. He helped Evelyn inside, away from the cold, away from the fire, away from the memories chasing her. The fire crackled softly. Warm light filled the room. Aiden made her ginger tea. Evelyn held the cup with shaking hands, but she was calmer now, anchored by the presence of a dog who seemed to understand her grief better than any human ever had. Valor lay at her feet, head resting gently near her ankle. Protective, present, a silent witness to her pain. After a long pause, Evelyn lifted her gaze. "You saved my life tonight," she whispered. "But you did something else too." Aiden leaned forward. "What's that?" She looked at Valor. Soft, broken, hopeful. "You brought something back," she said. "Something I thought God took from me a long time ago." Aiden's voice softened. "What did I bring back, Evelyn?" Her lips trembled. "Hope," she whispered. Then, with the firelight reflecting in her tired, tear-filled eyes, she asked the question that would haunt Aiden long after that night. "Officer Cross, do you believe that there are things a human mind can forget, but a dog can remember?" Valor lifted his head and placed his paw on her hand one more time. A silent answer, a quiet miracle. If this story touched your spirit, please like, comment, and subscribe. May God guide you gently, and may His miracles find you even in the darkest storms. Snow drifted slowly past the cabin windows, whispering against the glass like tiny ghosts of winters long gone. The fire crackled in the stone hearth, throwing warm amber light across the wooden floor. Aiden Cross sat at the small kitchen table, his elbows braced against the surface, watching the steam rise from 2 mugs of ginger tea. Across from him, Evelyn Moore rested in a thick blanket, her silver bob brushing gently against her cheeks. At 60, she had the poise of a woman who had once lived a life filled with refinement. Sharp cheekbones softened by age, pale skin marked with grief rather than time, and eyes that held entire storms behind them. Valor lay between them, his large German shepherd body curled protectively near Evelyn's feet. Even at 5 years old, he carried himself like a seasoned sentinel. Muscular, sharp-eyed, with a sable coat that darkened along his back like a warrior's cloak. His amber eyes never left Evelyn, as if tracking each subtle change in her voice, her breathing, her trembling fingers. Aiden cleared his throat gently. "Evelyn, when you said the accident happened 30 years ago, on Christmas Eve, you said the memories never returned fully. What did you mean?" Evelyn took a long, trembling breath. "I remember the storm. I remember the tree line vanishing beneath the snow. I remember my husband Daniel's hands gripping the wheel." She closed her eyes, and then nothing, as if someone sliced my memory apart with a knife. Aiden watched her carefully. He had spent years reading people, suspects, witnesses, victims. But Evelyn's face held something far more fragile, a truth she feared to touch. "I've tried to piece it back together," Evelyn whispered. "But every time I reach into that night, all I find is static, noise, missing frames." Her fingers tightened on the mug. "I remember a voice, a man shouting. But the voice isn't Daniel's." Valor lifted his head, ears tilting forward. "And I remember," she continued, a hand on my shoulder, firm, steady, pulling me from the wreck. But I don't know whose hand it was. I can't even picture their face." Aiden leaned forward. "You're saying the rescue report doesn't match your memory?" "No," Evelyn said, shaking her head. "The report says a passerby helped until emergency crews arrived. It lists an anonymous civilian." Her voice thinned. "But in the official file, Daniel and Michael were declared dead at the scene. No mention of someone pulling me out. No mention of a second impact. No mention of anything I remember." Aiden felt a coldness coil through his chest. As an FBI agent, he had seen accident files manipulated before, reasons ranging from incompetence to corruption to something darker. "Do you still have the original report?" he asked. "Yes," Evelyn replied. "But pages are missing." Aiden inhaled slowly through his nose. "Missing or removed?" Evelyn looked at him with a haunted clarity. "Someone didn't want the truth preserved." Valor suddenly rose and placed a single paw on Evelyn's knee. Slow, intentional, mirroring the gentle gesture he made the night he saved her. Evelyn froze. Aiden's breath hitched. The fire popped sharply in the silence. "That," she whispered, voice cracking, "that is exactly how the hand felt 30 years ago." Valor held her gaze, unmoving, as though confirming the impossible. Aiden felt shivers crawl across his skin. "Evelyn, Valor wasn't alive then. He couldn't—" "I know what I felt," Evelyn whispered sharply. "I know that touch. I know that presence." Valor lowered his paw but kept staring at her, pupils wide, as if the memory belonged to him more than to her. Evelyn wiped her face, but tears persisted. "Every time I try to remember, the same detail haunts me. Michael wasn't dead when the car crashed. I heard him." Her voice cracked. "He was crying, calling for me." Aiden's chest tightened. But the report lies, Evelyn snapped, then immediately softened. Someone told them he died instantly, but I know my child's voice. Her shoulders trembled. He was alive, and then he wasn't. Not because of the crash, because of something that happened after. Aiden's jaw clenched. You're saying someone finished the job? Evelyn stared into the fire, or took him. A sudden gust of wind slammed against the cabin wall, rattling the glass. Evelyn flinched violently, but Valor's reaction was worse. The German shepherd shot to his feet, ears pricked sharply toward the forest outside. His entire body stiffened. Then he made a sound Aiden had heard only twice in 5 years. A low, rattling primal hiss. Not a growl, not a warning. A recognition. Aiden rose. Valor, what is it? The dog took one step toward the door, then stopped, looking back at Evelyn with an expression almost human. His ears flattened, his hackles lifted, and his gaze shifted to a single, invisible point in the air, right over Evelyn's shoulder, as if he saw someone standing behind her. Evelyn's face drained of color. That feeling, she whispered. That's what I felt that night. A presence, right behind me. Valor rumbled again. Aiden moved instinctively, placing himself between Evelyn and the door. The forest outside went still, as if holding its breath. Evelyn pressed a shaking hand to her chest. It's happening again, she whispered. Every time I remember more. Something pushes back, like a shadow trying to seal the past shut. Aiden sat beside her. Evelyn, listen to me. You survived something more than a crash, something someone didn't want witnessed. And now, she said softly, brokenly, someone doesn't want me remembering. Valor lay down again, but his amber eyes never left her. I need to tell you the rest, she said quietly, before it slips away again. Aiden nodded. In the hospital, after the crash, I woke to a stranger at my bedside, she said. A paramedic, or at least he dressed like one. Tall, gaunt, a scar across his right cheek. His voice was calm, too calm for a night like that. Aiden frowned, the first lead forming in his mind. Did he give a name? No, Evelyn said. But he said something. Something I didn't understand then. She swallowed. He said, you won't remember this. It's better for everyone. A violent shiver ran through Aiden. Evelyn touched her forehead weakly. And after that, everything went dark. When I woke again, they said Daniel died instantly. They said Michael never made it out. They said there were no witnesses except a passing driver. She shook her head, fighting tears. But none of that is true. I feel it in my bones. Aiden placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Whoever that man was, he wasn't a paramedic. No. Evelyn wiped her cheeks. And he made sure I forgot whatever he didn't want me to remember. Aiden exhaled slowly, which means your son may not have died in that crash at all. Evelyn looked up, eyes filled with grief and defiance. Michael's out there, or he was. Someone took him from that wreck. Valor whined, soft, drawn out, like mourning for a truth just out of reach. The fire crackled again. Outside, the wind howled like a voice calling from 30 years in the dark. Snow dusted the FBI field office parking lot like sifted flour, softening the sharp edges of the world as Aiden Cross walked toward the entrance with heavy steps. His navy cold-weather FBI jacket creaked with frost, the fabric stiff from the morning wind. His jaw was clenched, clean-shaven but tight enough to show the muscle lines along his cheek. Valor padded beside him, large, steady, the sable coat bristling as if he sensed trouble before Aiden even touched the door. Inside, Fluorescent lights hummed a sterile melody. Agents moved briskly through the hallway, heads down, papers tucked beneath their arms. No one looked at him. That alone was enough to tell Aiden something was wrong. At the supervisor's office, Captain Ronald Briggs waited with a stiff posture. Briggs, a man in his late 50s with thinning gray hair and a habit of tapping his pen whenever he lied, closed the folder slowly when Aiden entered. "Agent Cross," he said, eyes darting once toward Valor. "We need to talk." Aiden remained standing. "Sir?" Briggs exhaled. "There was an incident last night. A surveillance report. Something you should have filed but didn't." Aiden frowned. "I didn't receive any assignment last night." Briggs tapped the folder again. "The log says otherwise." Aiden's stomach dropped. "Show me." Briggs opened the folder. Grainy images appeared. Pictures of Aiden's vehicle parked near a restricted zone, time-stamped less than 20 minutes apart. In each shot, Valor was at his side, sitting obediently. The problem: Aiden had been at Evelyn's cabin the entire night. "These are doctored," Aiden said calmly. Briggs shook his head. "There's more." He turned his monitor. "Security footage." Aiden watched the short clip, him walking down a hallway in the field office, entering a storage room, and removing a sealed evidence box. Except that never happened. The movement was choppy, frames misaligned, like a puzzle forced together by someone impatient. "That's not me," Aiden said, voice low and steady. Briggs looked genuinely conflicted, but protocol outweighed personal trust. "Until we verify the footage, I have no choice but to place you on temporary suspension." Valor growled, a deep warning vibration from his chest. "Aiden," Briggs added softer, "I'm sorry." But Aiden already knew the truth. Someone had begun their attack. He clipped Valor's harness and walked out of the building without a word. That night, the snow fell heavier, piling against mailboxes and cabin roofs in thick white mounds. Aiden trudged toward his home on the wooded road near North Cedar Ridge, Valor pacing with alert precision. The air cut cold against his skin, but something colder lived inside his ribs. Midway up the walkway, Valor stopped abruptly. His body stiffened, nose tilted toward the mailbox at the curb. "What is it?" Aiden whispered. Valor growled, not hostile, not afraid, but like he smelled. History buried beneath snow. Aiden opened the mailbox. Inside was a small black USB drive. No message, no fingerprints. Just a single scratch across the plastic, like someone had slammed it against metal in a hurry. He pocketed it and went inside. In the dim cabin light, he plugged it into his old laptop. The screen blinked once before a folder appeared. "Do you want the truth?" Aiden clicked. Videos filled the screen, each labeled with his name, each one dated across the last 6 months. He opened the first file. It showed him at the FBI indoor range, firing inaccurately, something he never did. The footage jittered. His stance flickered between real and artificial. It wasn't him, but a manipulated version of him. Aiden leaned closer. "Whoever did this knows our systems intimately." Valor paced behind him, nails tapping anxiously on the wooden floor. Aiden clicked the next video. It showed him mishandling evidence. Another showed him losing his temper in the bullpen. False. Each clip had been carefully, almost surgically, edited. Then came video number 6. It began with static, long, slow, humming static. Then a sound, a deep, rolling explosion. Aiden's pulse stopped. That sound, that exact frequency, the way the air shook. It was the blast that killed his team overseas, the explosion that took 3 brothers in arms from him and left him buried under debris. "No," he whispered. Valor froze. His ears shot up. Then the dog stepped backward, one step, then another, eyes wide, tail rigid, body trembling in a way Aiden had not seen since Afghanistan. "Valor," Aiden whispered. But the dog didn't respond. He lifted his muzzle toward the ceiling and let out a long, fractured, grief-ridden howl, a battlefield howl only a war dog could make. The sound ripped through the cabin like a memory tearing itself open. Aiden shut the laptop. His heart pounded, his breath shook. Someone wasn't just attacking him. They understood his past. They wanted his trauma awake. The next file auto-played. It wasn't a video, just a single image. A teenager, about 17, standing against a brick wall, brown hair falling over one eye, a gray hoodie, arms thin, almost undernourished, wrist faintly bruised. And around his wrist was a simple leather bracelet, engraved with the letters MM. Aiden felt the world tilt. The boy's face wasn't identical to Michael Moore's childhood photos, but it was close. Too close. More than that, the picture looked recent, 3 or 4 years ago at most. Valor crawled forward and pressed his head under Aiden's arm, a grounding gesture he rarely used unless Aiden was close to breaking. "Where did they take him?" Aiden whispered. "And why?" A soft gasp erupted behind him. Evelyn stood in the doorway of the cabin, wrapped in her red winter coat. Her silver hair glowed faintly in the shifting firelight. She looked smaller tonight, as if the weight of 30 years had suddenly returned to her shoulders. "Aiden," she whispered, stepping closer. What did you find?" Aiden turned the laptop toward her slowly. Evelyn leaned in. Her hand rose to her mouth. A trembling whisper escaped her. "That's my son." Her voice cracked. "But he's older. This wasn't from the accident. This is after." She swayed, gripping the table to stay upright. "Aiden," she whispered, eyes filling with terror. "If he lived after the crash, if he grew, then someone took him from me." Valor whined low, a grieving, hurting sound. "And someone," Evelyn continued, voice breaking, "did everything they could to erase me from his memory." Aiden shut the laptop, hand trembling around the USB. "No more running," he said softly but firmly. "Whoever did this, they're still out there." Evelyn's lips parted. "Aiden, what if the man who visited me in the hospital, the one who told me I wouldn't remember, what if he raised Michael? What if he—" Aiden gently held her shoulders. "We will find him," he said, "but we need to be smart." Evelyn wiped her cheeks with shaking hands. "Aiden, if my son is alive, why hide him? Why erase me? Why take a child?" Aiden stared at the USB in his palm. "There's only one kind of person who erases the truth," he said. "One who's afraid of it." Valor pressed against Aiden's leg, eyes fixed on the window, ears rotating toward something in the woods, something moving slow and deliberate under the snow. A shadow flickered across the frosted glass, and the night breathed in. Evelyn whispered, horror in every syllable. "If my son lived, who took him? And why erase me from his life?" Aiden closed his fist over the USB. "No matter what it costs," he said, voice steady as steel, "we're going to find the truth." Valor growled toward the woods, soft but certain, as if he already knew the truth was coming for them first. If this chapter touched your heart or awakened your curiosity, please like, comment, and subscribe. May God guide you toward truth, protect you through every storm, and shine His light into every hidden corner of your life. The conference hall inside the FBI regional headquarters had never felt colder. Not because of the winter storm raging outside, but because of the tension that thickened the air like invisible frost. Rows of chairs filled the room, agents, analysts, supervisors, each whispering theories and rumors. Whispers of fabricated evidence, USB leak, internal corruption drifted through the crowd like smoke. Aiden Cross stood at the center table, his posture rigid beneath his Navy FBI cold weather jacket, his blue-gray eyes sharpened with controlled resolve. Beside him sat Evelyn Moore, wrapped in her long red coat, hands trembling slightly over her lap. Her silver hair caught the fluorescent light, giving her a dignified glow. An elderly woman who had survived grief longer than most people lived. Valor rested at Aiden's feet, a quiet mountain of muscle and instinct. His sable coat shimmered subtly with each shift of the overhead lamps. The badge on his black harness, K9 Unit, Valor, gleamed like a declaration. At the front of the room, Senior Director Wallace Pierce prepared the hearing. Pierce, a tall, angular man with a salt and pepper beard and deep-set black eyes, carried the stern, unreadable expression of someone who had spent decades carving truth out of chaos. His charcoal suit fit him perfectly, his every movement sharp, deliberate. "Let's begin," Pierce said, voice steady. "We are here to evaluate allegations against Agent Aiden Cross. Before we proceed, anyone with evidence may step forward." Aiden exchanged a glance with Evelyn. "It's time," he whispered. Evelyn nodded, her breath trembling. She stood. Agents murmured as she approached the central podium, some recognizing her instantly. She looked smaller compared to the towering agents and massive walls, but her voice, when she spoke, carried decades of grief and unbroken courage. "My name is Evelyn Moore," she began. 30 years ago on Christmas Eve, I lost my husband, and I was told I lost my son." The room fell completely silent. "But I survived a car crash someone tried to erase from public record, and I survived lies that were designed to silence me." She gestured toward Aiden. "And this man, Agent Aiden Cross, saved my life again a year ago, the same way someone saved me 30 years ago." Valor nudged forward, as if urging her on. Evelyn lifted her chin. "And today, I am here with proof that Agent Cross is innocent." She set the USB on the table. Director Pierce nodded to the technician. "Load it." The screens around the room flickered to life. One by one, the manipulated videos played. Scenes of Aiden mishandling evidence, losing his temper, accessing restricted areas. Even at a glance, the cuts were unnatural. Time jumps, mismatched shadows, distorted audio. Pierce narrowed his eyes. "These are spliced." Aiden stood tall. "Yes, sir." Then came the file containing the explosion. Sound. As the blast thundered through the speakers, a low, rolling, suffocating shockwave, a collective shiver ran through the room. But Valor, he didn't just react, he relived it. The German shepherd recoiled, claws scraping the floor. His ears pressed flat, tail lowered, eyes wide as if the past unfurled in front of him like a battlefield returning from the dead. He let out a long, fractured howl, the same sound he made in Afghanistan when the explosion took their team. The room froze. One of the agents whispered, "That dog, he remembers." The final file appeared, a photograph, a 17-year-old boy, brown hair, tired eyes, and a leather bracelet on his wrist with the engraved letters, MM. Aiden didn't look away. Neither did Evelyn. Valor stared at the screen, unmoving, like he recognized the boy not from sight, but from something deeper. Evelyn's voice cracked. "That is my son, Michael Moore." Gasps rippled across the room. Pierce slowly turned. "Mrs. Moore, your son was declared deceased." "He was alive," she whispered. "And someone took him." The room shifted, an emotional earthquake no one could hide. The doors at the back of the room swung open. Every head turned. A tall, weathered man entered, around 60, broad-shouldered, wearing a long gray wool coat dusted with snow. His hair was silver, long enough to brush the collar of his coat, and his face was carved with deep, sorrowful lines that looked a decade older than his age. His dark eyes scanned the room with a mixture of guilt and determination. Evelyn gasped. "Lucas?" she whispered. Lucas Hale, her late husband's closest friend, stepped forward. Aidan stiffened. Valor rose to his feet, ears fixed in sharp attention. Lucas's voice, when he spoke, trembled. "I should have come sooner." Director Pierce frowned. "State your identity." Lucas lifted his chin. Lucas Hale, former federal consultant, and the last man who saw Michael Moore alive. The room erupted in shouts and shock. Pierce slammed the gavel. "Silence!" Aidan's pulse kicked hard. Evelyn held her breath. Valor stared at Lucas as though sensing a confession about to tear the world open. Lucas placed a trembling folder on the table. "For 30 years?" he whispered. "I've carried the weight of a truth I should have never agreed to hide." Lucas opened the folder. Photographs, old reports, a hospital intake form with a child's smudged fingerprint. "Michael did not die in the crash," Lucas said. "He survived. I saw him. I held him. He was injured, terrified, but alive." Evelyn's knees buckled. Aidan caught her arm. Lucas swallowed hard. The crash was not an accident. It was a targeted killing. Someone wanted the Moore family gone. He paused, breath shaking. "And Michael?" "He saw the face of the man who ran your family off the road." The room froze in collective dread. "Because of that," Lucas continued, "we placed Michael into a covert protective program, off books, no public trail, no access. His identity was erased so the killer could never find him." Evelyn sobbed quietly. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't anyone tell me he lived?" Lucas's voice broke. "You were unconscious. The handler in charge decided it would be safer if you believed he died. They said your grief would protect him, that the fewer people who knew he survived, the safer he'd remain." Aidan clenched his fists. "Who gave that order?" Lucas's eyes trembled as he turned toward the table, toward one man sitting near the front, a man with slicked-back dark hair, a sharp jaw, a perfect black suit, a face carved from arrogance and ice. Trent Mallory, Aidan's superior. The room held its breath. Trent's expression didn't change. He simply leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, watching Lucas with the calmness of a predator forced into daylight. Lucas inhaled sharply. Michael survived. He was taken, hidden, controlled. His voice hardened. And Trent Mallory knew everything. A ripple of terror passed through the crowd. Aidan's heartbeat thundered. Valor's fur bristled, teeth baring silently. Lucas pointed a shaking finger at Trent. 30 years, Trent, he said. You thought no one knew. You thought your secret died with Michael. He stepped forward. But the boy survived. And so did the truth. The entire room went silent. Trent Mallory lifted his gaze at last, and he smiled. If this chapter opened your eyes or stirred your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe. May God reveal truth wherever lies are buried, and may His light protect every innocent soul. Snow thickened over the mountains as Aidan Cross steered the SUV through the winding forest road, headlights slicing through the dusk. Valor sat in the back seat, posture rigid, amber eyes fixed on the dark tree line as if he sensed something the others could not. In the passenger seat, Lucas Hale breathed shallowly, his gray wool coat draped around his tall, weathered frame. His long silver hair fell around his tired face, making him look older than his 60 years. his features carved by guilt that had lived inside him for decades. "This is the place," Lucas murmured, voice gravelly. "The cabin where Michael stayed for nearly 3 years." Evelyn Moore, frail but resolute, tightened her red coat around her shoulders in the back seat. Her silver hair trembled slightly with each breath she took. Please tell me he was safe." Lucas didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped out into the snow, boots sinking deep. "Safer than out there," he finally said. "But they never intended to let him stay with me forever. They moved him from place to place, scrambled memories, broke things they couldn't erase." Aiden joined him. With each step toward the dark cabin, he felt the air grow heavier, as if history itself waited behind those walls. The cabin sat hunched against the slope, half swallowed by pines. Its windows were frosted opaque, its wooden beams weighted by 30 years of silence. Valor walked ahead, nose twitching, tail lowered. Aiden pushed the door open. Dust swirled in the cold air. The interior was dark except for a faint line of moonlight slipping through a crack in the roof. Old furniture lay scattered, blankets stacked neatly at the corner as if a child had once folded them carefully. A pair of boots, small, adolescent-sized, rested against the stone fireplace. Evelyn gasped softly, her gloved hand covering her mouth. Lucas stepped toward an old wooden chest. "He kept a few things," he said quietly. "Things they didn't confiscate." He opened it. Inside sat a small music box. Cherry wood, carved edges, engraved initials, MM. Evelyn dropped to her knees, choking on a breath that was half a sob. "I gave this to him on his 10th birthday." When she touched the lid, Valor gently pressed his head against her shoulder, sensing the surge of emotion within her. Aiden lifted another object, a stack of papers tied in twine. Lucas nodded. He wrote letters, but he was never allowed to send them. Aiden handed them to Evelyn. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the first page. The handwriting was unsteady, the strokes desperate. "Mom, I'm sorry. They won't tell me why I can't see you. They say remembering you will only hurt you. I don't believe them. But I'm scared. They don't want me to remember anything at all." Evelyn cried silently, tears falling onto the faded ink. Lucas leaned heavily on the table. "There's more," he whispered. "Files they tried to destroy." Aiden sifted through ripped documents, clinical forms, brain pattern charts, a program title half torn off. Cognitive Reconstruction Protocol, Phase 3. Long-term memory redaction. Aiden's eyes hardened. They didn't hide him. They rewired him. Lucas lowered his gaze. They wanted the eyewitness gone. Not dead, but erased. Valor growled softly at the torn documents, nose hovering near the pages like he smelled ghosts in the ink. A sudden crack of snow outside. Valor snapped upright, ears forward, body tense, tail stiff. Aiden raised his hand. "Everyone stay behind me." Another sound, a crunch, slow and deliberate. Someone was circling the cabin. Lucas turned pale. "They found us." Before Aiden could reach the door, it burst inward. A figure lunged through the snowstorm, tall, clad in black tactical gear, face hidden beneath a hood. In his gloved hand, a suppressed pistol. Lucas staggered backward. Aiden moved to disarm the attacker, but a second figure came from the left, slamming him against the wall, forearm pressed against his throat. The attacker's breath smelled of steel and winter. Strong, trained, silent. Valor exploded into motion. He lunged, fast, feral, unstoppable, burying his jaws into the attacker's arm right as the gunman squeezed the trigger. The bullet fired. It grazed Aiden's shoulder, punching into the wooden beam behind him. Valor's growl deepened as he tore through the man's grip, knocking him onto the floor. The cabin erupted in chaos, snow blowing through the doorway, Evelyn screaming, Lucas shouting in pain as the second attacker tackled him. Aiden threw the first man aside, adrenaline surging. He grabbed the pistol that skidded across the floor and aimed, but the second gunman dragged Lucas by the coat toward the door, snow swirling violently around them. "Stop!" Aiden yelled. The attacker shoved Lucas hard, sprinted into the storm, and vanished between the trees. The first man, bleeding heavily from Valor's bite, staggered to his feet and followed, dropping something in the snow. They disappeared into the dark. Aiden ran outside, but the agents were already swallowed by the blizzard. Valor barked in frustration, breath steaming in the freezing air. Aiden turned back toward the cabin. Lucas lay on the floor, blood staining the wood beneath him. His gray coat opened slightly, revealing a deep stab wound near his ribs. Evelyn knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she pressed her scarf against the injury. "Lucas, stay with us," she pleaded. Lucas grimaced, coughing. "I knew they'd come. I knew too much." Aiden crouched beside him. "Who were they? Who sent them?" Lucas shook his head. "It's not who sent them. It's who's afraid of the truth." Valor stepped closer, lowering his head onto Lucas's chest. A gesture of loyalty, a farewell. Lucas lifted a weak hand and touched Valor's muzzle. "Good boy. You protected him. You protected Michael once too, didn't you?" Valor whined softly. Lucas turned his fading eyes to Aiden. "If a day comes, when someone finds you, someone who dreams of Evelyn, someone who sees her in red," he coughed again, blood on his lips, "that's when Michael is finally coming home." Evelyn broke completely, sobbing into Lucas's shoulder. Aiden squeezed the dying man's hand. "Lucas, we'll finish what you started, I swear." Lucas managed the smallest nod. Then his eyes closed. The storm outside wailed, but the cabin was silent, except for Evelyn's grief and Valor's low, mourning rumble. Aiden wiped his face, then stepped out into the snow to retrieve what the attacker had dropped. A black tactical glove. On the back of it, a symbol. A thin white line slashed through a circle. Exactly the same symbol found on the wreckage from Evelyn's crash 30 years ago. Aiden felt the cold pierce deeper than the winter air. The past wasn't dead. It had been hunting them all along. If this chapter moved your heart or strengthened your faith, please like, comment, and subscribe. May God guide you through every storm and bring miracles even in your darkest nights. Snow drifted softly over the mountains, gentler tonight, as if winter itself chose to whisper instead of roar. The world outside Second Chance House glowed beneath golden lanterns, each flicker casting warm halos onto the freshly fallen snow. Inside, the fire crackled quietly, warmth spreading across the wooden floors like a slow, steady heartbeat. Aiden Cross sat beside the bed, hands folded tightly, shoulders heavy beneath his Navy FBI cold weather jacket. His blue-gray eyes were dim with exhaustion, grief, and something deeper. Something nameless yet sacred. In the dim light, Evelyn Moore looked impossibly small beneath the quilt. Her red coat hung on a nearby chair, freshly cleaned, the color now muted but still unmistakably hers. Silver strands of hair lay softly against her pale cheeks, her breathing shallow but peaceful. Valor lay at her bedside, head resting gently on the quilt, amber eyes watching every rise and fall of her chest. He looked older tonight, a guardian who knew his final vigil had come. Evelyn opened her eyes slowly. "Aiden," she whispered. He leaned forward immediately. "I'm here." She smiled weakly. You've given me more than I ever thought I'd get back. You gave me a mission, he replied, voice warming. You gave me a home. Her fingers trembled as she touched his wrist. No. Second Chance House was always meant for you. You carry too many souls inside your heart, Agent Cross. Souls who never got to finish their story. You must give them a place. Her voice cracked. Let this place be home to the cold souls. Aiden swallowed the ache in his throat. I promise. Evelyn glanced down at Valor. You've always known, haven't you, boy? Valor pressed closer, his breath warm against her palm. You saw hope in the places we were too tired to look, she whispered. Her eyes softened. Tell Michael. I never stopped waiting. Aiden clasped her hand gently. She exhaled, slow, peaceful like a candle releasing its last shimmer. A final breath, then stillness. Valor let out a low, grieving sound, lowering his head onto the blanket as if laying guard over her spirit one last time. And outside, snow began to fall again, but softer, lighter, like a farewell blessing. Evelyn Moore passed away on a night where everything was quiet enough for heaven to hear. The funeral was small, humble, and wrapped in silence. Aiden stood beside the grave, shoulders steady but heart trembling. Valor sat in the snow, tail curled against his body, watching the burial with mournful stillness. When the last handful of snow-covered earth was placed, the wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of pine and something strangely familiar. Valor's ears perked, eyes following the invisible trail. He stood abruptly, walking to the edge of the clearing as if he sensed a presence no human could detect. He stared at the road, unmoving, waiting. Aiden stepped beside him. Valor? What is it? The dog didn't blink, didn't breathe, didn't move. Just listened. It felt like a message, a whisper, a promise, a door opening somewhere just beyond the horizon. Aiden placed a hand on Valor's head. Is it time? He whispered. Valor finally looked up, almost nodding. In the weeks that followed, Aiden transformed Second Chance House into something new, something alive. The cabin filled with warm meals, folded blankets, laughter, and stories of broken people rebuilding their lives. Veterans found a bed and safety. Runaways found warmth. The lonely found community. Aiden's hands, scarred from years of service, bruised from battles no one ever saw, built shelves, repaired doors, fixed heaters, and cooked soup. Valor became the soul of the home. He walked visitors to their rooms, lay beside those who cried, barked sharply when someone snuck out to avoid confronting their pain, and curled around the elderly on cold nights like a silent guardian. His black harness, K9 unit, Valor, hung by the door like a symbol of the house's promise. You are safe here. And for the first time in 30 years, the old lanterns outside Second Chance House glowed every night. As Christmas approached again, snow deepened. The mountains turned silver beneath moonlight. Aiden felt a strange pull inside his chest, like the story he'd tried to follow for so long was circling back. On Christmas Eve, he lit the outdoor lanterns early. Valor sat beside him, tail brushing the snow. You feel it too, Aiden murmured. Valor looked toward the road. Aiden followed his gaze. A figure stood in the snow, thin, hooded, trembling slightly, breath forming clouds in the cold air. When he stepped closer, Aiden saw his face illuminated by the lantern glow. Young, early 20s, hair brown and slightly long, eyes deep set with exhaustion and confusion. He wore a simple winter jacket, frayed at the cuffs and around his wrist. A leather bracelet, old, faded, engraved, MM. Aiden felt the world slow. The young man lifted his gaze, his lips parted, voice cracking as if he had spoken the same sentence in dreams 1,000 times. I saw her, he whispered. A woman in a red coat. She kept saying your name. Valor stepped forward, not cautiously, not suspiciously, but with absolute certainty. He pressed his head against the young man's hand. The young man exhaled sharply, as if something missing inside him suddenly clicked into place. My name, he said, barely breath. I think it's Michael. Aiden approached slowly, eyes burning with emotion he could no longer contain. If you truly are Michael, he said gently, there's someone who waited her entire life for you. Michael's eyes filled with tears. I don't remember everything, but I remember her voice. Aiden placed a hand on his shoulder. She remembered you every day. Valor moved between them, pressing his body against both, as if stitching together the torn halves of a story 30 years in the making. Snow fell harder, but under the lanterns, the flakes looked almost like embers, warm, glowing, alive. Michael looked up at Aiden. Is it too late? Aiden shook his head. Miracles never arrive late. They arrive exactly when they're meant to. The wind carried Evelyn's red scarf hanging by the door, softly swaying, and for the first time in decades, the mountains felt like home again. Christmas isn't when people find miracles, Aiden whispered. He smiled, voice soft as falling snow. It's when miracles find them. If this ending touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe. May God bless you with warmth in every winter, and may His miracles find you when you need them most. In the quiet hours of Christmas, when snow softens the world and the heart remembers what it has lost, we are reminded that miracles do not always arrive with light and thunder. Sometimes they come as a whisper, a memory, a stranger at the door, or the courage to keep believing when everything feels dark. God's grace often works in places we overlook, in the small kindness we give, in the hope we hold on to, and in the love that refuses to die even across decades of silence. The same God who guided Aiden, Valor, and Michael through their storm is the same God who walks beside you through your own. If this story touched something in your heart, I invite you to share it, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. May the Lord bless you, protect your home, and bring miracles into your life in the moments you need them most.